Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Epstein, and this is Taking Criticism Creatively, or Taking Creative Criticism. My goal here is to give you a lecture I wish I could have given me when I was that guy, before I made all the mistakes that I've made. Some of this will seem obvious to you. It is always obvious to me as well, except when I am making mistakes, taking creative criticism. And so this is crystallizing that information so it's more available. Okay. There was a picture here once. Oh, okay. Why is there no picture here? Okay. Okay. I was at Compulsion Games for a decade. I wrote Contrast, narrative directed We Happy Few, South of Midnight. I've written a half dozen indie games, but for the purposes of this talk, I am an expert in taking creative notes. An expert is someone who has made all of the mistakes in a limited field. So, giving and taking notes should be two co-workers trying to find a vision for the work that both of them can love. Neither of them brings any ego. The work is the important thing. Ha 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 ha! Yes, no one comes to creativity without an ego. To be creative is, by definition, to want what's in your head to be in someone else's head. If you don't have an ego, you're probably not, you're too creatively shy. So our egos regularly throw up obstacles to making the most out of notes. Sometimes it's our ego, sometimes it's the ego of the note giver. Usually it's both. So what are some tools to surmount these obstacles? First and foremost, try not to take feedback personally. This is almost impossible. Someone is criticizing your baby. Obviously they hate you. So you defend yourself. You think about why they're wrong and what you have is great, and now you're not learning anything about what you wrote or created. 2, it is difficult but important to remember that all feedback is legitimate. If someone says they don't like something, they don't like it. You can't tell them, hey man, that joke is really funny, you should have laughed. So if you get feedback, that's their experience. So if you get feedback that you don't like, you have to assume, for the purposes of the feedback, that you're not dealing with an idiot. There are very few actually stupid people in the video game industry. All of you guys are geniuses. But when someone proposes something, a criticism or a fix, very often what pops into your mind is the idiotic version of that. So you think, why are they saying that? That's ridiculous. It's obviously wrong. Why would they want that? So you have to find the truth. So I had an acting teacher who said, find the truth. It's, again, always easy to find something wrong with a criticism or a fix. But there is probably some reason why they said that. And there's probably some truth behind that. And you have to think, not what can I come up with to discredit what they just said. Think instead, if there was something valuable in that, what is it? Sometimes people will point out something that is wrong, clearly wrong. You get it. You're like, oh yeah, that's totally wrong. I better fix it. But there's something else that is bugging them that they can't quite crystallize in words. So they just hint at it and then move on. The problem is this is often a more serious problem than the thing they talked about and will require much more work to fix. So the temptation is to ignore the hint and go with the thing that was obvious. Don't ignore it. Interrogate them. Try to understand what that big, vague criticism they had was. Why? Because they will come back with the same criticism in 3 months, or people on YouTube will mock you for it when the game ships. So when somebody you say, I sense you're bumping on something, and they're like, nah, forget it. You have to go, no, really, what is it? You know you are a real creator when you're like, a friend of yours says, yeah, it's great. And you're like, okay, whatever, but what was wrong with it? Okay, all feedback is legitimate, and they're probably not an idiot. It does not mean they're right about where the problem is. They may be picking at a symptom. I have a degree in computer science, which has been super useful in my career as a writer. In programming, if something goes wrong 3/4 of the way through the execution of the program, the odds are the mistake was made in the first 10 lines of code. Same thing in a screenplay, same thing in a game. This scene is not too long because it's too long. It's too long because I didn't make you care about the characters in the scene. And any scene about characters that you don't care is going to be too long. Okay, now they may propose a solution. Feedback is legitimate. Criticisms have truth behind them. Most solutions proposed to you will be bad, especially if it's coming from someone who's not in your discipline, who is looking at it from a completely different angle. They may not see how you really need this thing here because it sets up this thing over there. So when they say, oh yeah, cut that, no, don't do that. Solutions proposed by your boss may be bad because your boss looked at it over lunch, or offline while they're in a Zoom call, and you spent a month on it. So note givers often like to solve their problem for you and tell you how to change your narrative. So it's very tempting to reject the changes because they're just going to break everything. But before you think about whether their change works, ask them, what are you trying to fix? Because, again, there is a truth behind it. Something is wrong. They want to fix something. But often they'll just give you the solution. Let's make the main character a girl. Let's make the main character a parakeet. I'm not equating girls and parakeets. So if you know what they're trying to fix, you can probably come up with a much better solution. You can go, oh no, actually, if I just change 2 lines back there, this is going to fix the whole problem. And obviously, they're not aware of the entire story, so they couldn't have proposed that. Okay, so you really looked at understanding the criticism. You know what their problem really is. You're still convinced that the person giving you feedback is wrong. They're honing in on something that isn't the real problem. They want something fixed that you don't think is broken. They want a specific change. If you're anything like me, you will find yourself in a situation where you can already see that their idea won't work. So writers have a superpower of gaming things out narratively. At the very moment somebody proposes this and you're like, okay, no, that's not going to work. Don't say that. Say, we'll take a look at that. You're not saying no. You will take a look at that. If you give them the answer right away, they will think that you're just being resistant and you don't want their feedback, and they'll feel disrespected and sad. And as Maya Angelou says, people remember how you made them feel. So don't do that. Really do take a look at it. This gives you time to remember that the person who gave you notes is not an idiot. to find the truth, to find the deeper problem, time for your hackles to come down, time for your stress level to come down, time to discover that their idea was actually not bad, come to think of it. Or you can try out the suggestion. You can say, we tried it, it didn't really work. Or it works if we do it this way. Is that okay with you? Or that didn't work, but how about this? None of which you can say if you didn't spend some time away. An even better thing to come back is, I tried your idea and it worked. Thank you. That was great. If you're good at shoveling it, you can even say that if what you did wasn't what they asked you to do. And that may just take the win and like, oh yeah, great. Well, I'm so glad it worked out for you. I'm going to go now. Most people will take the win. Okay, what if none of this works? Assuming the notes are coming from someone whose orders you are obliged to follow, you are left with last-ditch strategies. If you're at a big enough company where there will be testing, you can say, let's test it when it's ready. Then make sure that the correct question gets into the test. So if you think that something is going to make something muddy, then you can say, please ask the players if they understood what was going on here. If you think something is going to make players uncomfortable, make sure that the tests include, did that make you uncomfortable? Last ditch strategy number 2, execute the note and look for good reasons to rethink the entire context. So you're not rejecting their note, you're just, the whole section just needs a big rethink. Or execute the note and look for good reason to kill that encounter entirely. Then you won't have a broken encounter, you just won't have it at all. Producers love this solution. Anytime you can cut something, they're happy. And legitimately, most of the time you're going to be cutting 30%, 40%, 50% of the content that was originally planned. So it may be even that you didn't need that encounter. Strategy number 4, maybe it will turn into a good note. You could be wrong. So there's a king and a very famous rabbi, and he summoned the rabbi to him and said, Rabbi, you must teach my monkey to talk, or I will have you executed. So you have 6 months. And the rabbi says, 6 months? It takes 5 years to teach a monkey how to talk. So the king said, fine, 5 years. And as the rabbi was walking out, his disciple said, Rabbi, I don't understand. What just happened? You can't teach the monkey to talk. And the rabbi says, well, in 5 years, the king may be dead. I may be dead. The monkey may learn to talk. Okay, can you do it your way? And it turns out so brilliant that it proves you right. This talk is more or less how you should not do that. Your note taker will feel you didn't listen. People often feel you didn't listen even when you listened and you just disagreed. Even if it turns out brilliantly, they may not be grateful because nobody is grateful for being proved wrong. Ego. If you're going to do it your way after doing it their way. So you can say, okay, by the way, I also did this on the side if you want to check it out. That can take the curse off. Do not execute the note badly to show how stupid it was. That way lies sorrow and dishonor. You will look like you're bad at your job unless you tell someone what you're doing, and then people will think that you're deceitful. Do not go over your supervisor's head. That way also lies sorrow. They will resent it and sabotage you until you're eventually fired. Saving for last the most difficult approach to taking feedback, which is to carefully explain why their feedback is wrong. This is always my first instinct. There are some people who you are willing to trust your creative, instincts and your craft. To these people, you can explain the problem. You can say, this is what I'm trying to do here. This is why I did it this way. Maybe you can help me do that. These people are gold. If your company does not have a policy against it, marry them. The secret to my success is my wife, who trusts me and I trust her creatively. We write together. For everyone else, it must be a hill worth dying on. How can you tell something is a hill worth dying on? If you've been following along, the answer is not when you're right. Your job is not to make the best game. Your job is to make your team happy. If you can make your team happy by making the best game, God bless us one and all. But if you have to choose, make your team happy, because if they're not happy, your content isn't going to make it into the game. They're going to do it the way they want. And so you've died on the hill and you didn't take the hill. And no hill is worth dying on if you're not going to take the hill. As we all know from Fredericksburg. So what have we learned? Don't take notes personally. Assume they are not an idiot. Find the truth in what they said. Dig for the deeper problem. The problem may not be where they think it is. What are they trying to fix? Well, take a look at that. Really do take a look at that. Make them think it's their idea. Maybe the monkey will learn to talk. And that's what I know about taking criticism. This is a little overpriced book that I wrote on game writing. The press is an academic press. They charge like, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks for it, but maybe your library can get it or something. I also have a blog. Questions? Anybody have questions?
You got 7 minutes.
7 minutes, all right.
You've got Crafty emojis.
Oh, okay. So what are some questions?
No, I'm just pointing out that I don't
Oh, okay.
actually see any
Yes.
questions online.
So, sometimes you get feedback when things are in progress, like, let's say you're talking with managers. Is there any techniques you have to explain to them why things are without sounding defensive, or any, because they might not have the whole picture?
Right.
Good.
Yes. Well, you absolutely can and should do that. And you can say, what I'm trying to do here is this, and here is the plan for how I'm going to do it, and here's what's missing. So, the characters currently have heads that are square gray cubes. There will eventually be faces on them. Will make the cutscene much more interesting. And that is, it's an iterative process. So that will hopefully work. Hopefully you can convey the whole plan. And yeah, try to do it so it doesn't feel defensive. Just say, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. You can say, do you think that will work? What do you think? Would you do it a different way? Jackson.
Have you ever had been in a position you felt there was a hill?
Have I ever had?
Have you ever been in a position where you felt there was a hill worth dying?
Probably, but I was probably wrong. And sometimes I found myself on top of the hill dying, and I'm like, wait, how? This is a hill? What? Why am I all alone? Yes, sir.
You just mentioned egos earlier.
I'm sorry, what?
You mentioned egos earlier, sort of contributing to creativity, and I've noticed that with teams, if we're working on similar aspects of a project, people's egos tend to get in the way. People will sort of promote an idea, really stick with it, and not be open to sort of taking a bit of everything and having everyone's part of the creative process. Do you have any notes on that with working with leaders?
Take them out to an individual lunch.
The mic can't hear all those guys. Could you?
Oh, okay.
repeat?
So the question was, how do you handle the egos of the group? And my answer is, the problem is the group and how people will present themselves differently if they're presenting to a group. It's hard to reason with somebody in a group because if they admit that they're wrong, they look bad. But if you can get them alone, and if you can get 6 people alone one at a time, then you may be able to persuade them. And the secret to successful meetings is to have had all the private meetings before the meeting. So when you go into the meeting, you have all these allies, and you've already answered their questions. Yes, up back there.
How do you handle misdirected criticism that's aimed at you, but perhaps it was from the next year? I'm agreeing, perhaps you got criticism on decisions that your game director made, but it's from the greater team.
You're out of frame.
What?
You're out of frame. You gotta go.
I'm
back.
out of frame.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Great.
So what happens when you are criticized for decisions that your creative director made, for example, or are level design questions? You can either, if it's your creative director, you probably want to defend their decision, if it's defensible. If it's a level design decision, you can tell a level designer, here's what the problem seems to be. I'm going to bring this person up here to answer the question, so then they feel respected, and also you're off the hook.
We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, Andrea.
So, I have a question when it comes to, if you're on a team and you are comfortable with compromise, and your peer says they're comfortable with compromise, but their actions are the opposite of what they're telling you, how do you highlight that kind of like dissonance where you're telling me that you're okay with compromise, but I'm not seeing that you're acting?
So the question is, when people say, I'm totally open to compromise, and followed by, nope, 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 not going to do that. Nope, that's all wrong. Change jobs. You can be in a very difficult these days, but you can be in a toxic workspace where people are, all raging egos. Ubisoft. And sometimes the answer is to get away. Sometimes, and sometimes it gets back to make your team happy. So, until you can get away, just let them have their head. That happens. Do we have any questions from there? No?
I'm
Okay.
not seeing anything
All right.
anywhere.
Other
We're
question? Any more?
actually at time. It is 3 o'clock.
Okay, well. Thank you all.